Hello, and thank you for joining our webinar today. My name is Natalia Crawford, and I'm coming to you live from Melissa Data's headquarters in Rancho Santa Margarita, California. Our webinar today is called How Palletizing High-Volume Mailings Helps You Save Time and Money. Joining me today is our resident mailing expert, Tony Deacon. He will be going over how palletization for large volume mailings can help you save time and money. But before we jump in, I want to encourage everyone to feel free to submit questions. You can type those in at any time during the presentation as well as towards the end of the webinar. This webinar will be recorded, so if you miss anything or would like to forward it to someone, you will be able to do so. All right, let's go ahead and get started. Tony, take it away.
Thank you, Natalia. This is the fourth in our series of mailing webinars, and this one is a relatively new feature in MAILERS+4. We've just introduced palletization into the software in the last couple updates. It's technically not yet required by the USPS, but they can require it if your mailing volume is high enough. So we're just going to have a fairly quick webinar this time because there's not a whole lot to it. If you're doing enough mail, I believe the minimum is 250 pounds, then the USPS can technically require that you put it on a pallet. Most post offices don't yet, but we have several customers who have been required to do it by their post offices, so we've made sure to get it into the software even though it's not yet a mandatory feature. Palletization can be required by them in certain instances, for example, when the mail on the pallet is greater than 500 pounds. Though palletization is not required between 100 and 250 pounds. So there are still quite large mailings you can do without being required to do palletization, but if you are required to do it, the software makes it really easy. Palletization is never required in these instances, though some post offices can request that you palletize your mail if the volume is large enough. These are just some basic stats on the pallet, but again, you can see basically it starts at 250 pounds of mail. For normal bulk mail, the minimum is 50 pounds or 200 pieces, and once it gets to 250 pounds, then it is a sufficient number of trays that it needs to go on a pallet. Pallets, obviously, everyone's familiar with pallets. The pallets for the USPS are all going to be based on the standard mail trays. So since you're already going to be using those trays from the USPS, all of these measurements and sizes apply automatically. There are special tags for pallets in addition to the tags that go on the individual containers. So there will be a tray tag within the individual tray, and then the trays are stacked on the pallet, shrink wrapped, and then there will be placards outside the pallet. There has to be one on each adjacent side so that it can be seen from any direction. Pink for periodicals and white for first class is the same as it is for the tray tags. That's always been a standard. If you're doing periodicals, it has to be on pink cardstock. Top caps. This is can be required if you're using pallet boxes. Then you'd stack all your mail inside a large box on a pallet. You can strap that with a top cap, though it's not required. But you can also see from this illustration the placement of the pallet labels, one on each side, adjacent sides. These are some stats on the pallet box themselves. Cardboard box that you put your mail inside of, so then you can use stacks of bundles, or you can put them into sacks like you would with periodicals, or they can also be in trays. So the use of the pallet box allows you to put different types of mail, even if you're not using the standard mail trays. Normally you would be using the standard 1-foot, 2-foot trays. Generally, they're phasing out the 1-foot trays, and the EMM trays are all 2-foot trays. So you can see this counter stacking pattern shows how you can keep all of them holding the boxes together on the tray by just their own weight. so they overlap the seams, making it sturdier. The pallets must be securely strapped and/or shrink wrapped, or both, so that they can't tip over and the mail can't fall off of them. That's standard for all pallets, but is required by the USPS as well. As we've discussed in previous webinars, you can still qualify for the destination discounts, and coming in the next update of the software, we're going to have the official Form 8125 from the USPS that allows you to drop ship entire pallets to those destinations to qualify for those additional discounts. That's not in the current version of the software that we're going to use today, but it will be released next month. If you have sufficient mail, then there's also methods by which you can stack pallets on top of pallets. So obviously you'd have to be doing a lot of mail for that, but the heaviest pallet on the bottom, smaller pallets can go on top, and they can all be bound together. These diagrams are all from the USPS RIB site. So if you need to refer to them, you can see this webinar again, or you can go to the RIB site and see them or print them. In our software MAILERS+4, we've added the Create Pallets button in the presort function. So now it will just automatically create the pallets and the reports that go with them by simply checking this box. After you presort, you'll see the option for the pallet labels and the pallet reports. The pallet report, fairly sophisticated, but only needs to be understood by the USPS. This shows all the trays within the pallet in the individual containers and the total weight at the bottom. The pallet labels, these are the ones that have to be on two adjacent sides of the pallet, and these are the official IMB barcode scannable pallet labels as required by the USPS. Now I'll do a quick demo just to show the same function in the software, though it's fairly quick, so it won't take a whole lot of time. Just a second. This is the same file we used last time for the saturation mailings. We've already run all the other features on it, and the only one required for palletization is the pre-sorting. So we'll just go right to that. Again, you enter in your post office of mailing, the type of mail, the size, and the software will use this to calculate how many containers it will need and how full they will be and how many pounds of mail you'll be sending. When we enable the Create Pallets, then it will automatically generate the pallet report as well as the tags you'll need for each of them. In this case, this mailing only requires one pallet, so there's just going to be the one tag. The pallet report, as we viewed previously, so that here we can see it full size. So if the USPS does require you to palletize your mail, it's easy enough to do using software like this. It takes care of all the USPS regulations. And one of the main benefits, we could say, to palletization is that it can be required. So if your post office requires you to palletize your mail, using software like this makes it really easy to do. And if there are any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you, Tony. We are now going to be moving into the Q&A section of the webinar. If you have any questions, please type them in now. I would also like to remind you that I will be sending out a link to a recording of today's webinar via email by the end of this week. Okay, it looks like we just had a question come in. What is the benefit of palletization?
The benefit, in this case, it's similar to some other USPS discounts where they imply that there's a discount related to doing the palletization, but oftentimes it means they are planning to take away a discount unless you do it. So similar to the IMB barcode, the justification for palletization on the USPS is that if you want to maintain the discounts you're currently getting, then you'd have to also do this in addition. So that if your post office requires palletization, they could charge you a higher price if you didn't do it.
Okay, we'll wait just a couple more seconds in case there are any other questions. So if you have any questions, go ahead and type them in now. It looks like that's all the time we have right now. If you submitted a question that did not get answered, please contact Tony via email or phone. His information is provided on the screen. Thank you again for attending today's webinar. We will be having another webinar tomorrow called Win Huge, 5 Steps to Better Campaigns Using Data Enhancements. Be sure to register if you would like to attend. For more information, go to www.melissadata.com. Have a great day. We will see you next time.